Welcome back to Try Before We Die, the whiskey review show where we don't know what we're drinking, but we will tell you what we're thinking. Hey, I read your book, Something Versus.
This will be the Rushdie show.
It's very Salmon. It's nice to see you, Malcolm.
It's good to be back.
Well, I love the bar.
Not as much as I think. You know what? You do love your bar, but I don't think you love it as much as the patrons that come here on a regular basis.
It's like a true local, right?
It is a true local.
Right. We all know the drill. Hundreds of bottles. Randy, our number generator, will bring us to which one we're going to open tonight. Whether you could buy it today in a store or your SOL, unless you know somebody who already got one. Today, it's bottle
100.
265.
Wow.
We're back around the corner in the snooker room on the original snooker room shelf. We'll see everybody for bottle 265. I love the snooker room. So we're here for bottle 265. Well, what we know is this is 240, 252, 264, because they're 12 across. Which brings us to a Bunnahabhain. Now, I believe the Bunnahabhains are generally released at 46.3. 46.3. So this is I believe this is pronounced the Ceobanach. However, if we were to pronounce it the way it's spelled, it'd be the Ceobanach. But I believe it's the Ceobanach. We do not have an age statement, though right away, natural color, non-chill filtered. I believe Ceobanach, if I remember correctly from looking a few things up in the past, is smoky mist. So I believe this will begin to fall into that traditional Islay range. So we'll see how excited Malcolm is. I'm looking forward to trying a whiskey I've never had, but a distillery of which I've had many. So we'll see everybody back at the bar for the Bunnahabhain Ceobanach. What was the name of that show, Malcolm, where the boat crashed and it was the like a 3-hour cruise?
Titanic.
And
Titanic.
There was a really rich guy.
Silent Adventure.
And his wife. There was a scientist too. You remember that show?
Gilligan.
Gilligan's Isle. I would like to be the skipper. You will be Gilligan.
I would make a great Gilligan.
Can I have a hat and just hit you with it?
You can do whatever you want to do, because I would annoy the crap out of you for the rest of your life.
So we've found ourselves shipwrecked on an isle, the Isle of Islay, with a Bunnahabhain. Pronounce that.
Bunnahabhain.
Very good, Mal. This is the Ceobanach.
Let me look at this. I don't know where you're getting that from, but okay.
Right. It's Gaelic, I'm sure, and I think it means smoky mist. We'll get it open and we'll see what the back of the bottle has to say for us. I've not had this. 46.3 ABV, very much a classic Bunnahabhain ABV. We recently had a cork failure with a Bunnahabhain. For a comparison, we'll see if this one is ready to go. It looks quite light.
Yes. The last one we did, I could not really see through the bottle.
This jumped out.
Popped out.
Popped out. All right, let's get it into a glass.
Very soft though.
This is a no age statement.
Now, why do you think? So let me just throw this out to you, right? So we have aged. Wait there. We have aged, where you know what the age is, right? And then you also have there's a no age. Do you think there's a mystique that they're throwing out because they're calling it no age?
Well, let's look at it this way. This limited batch Bunnahabhain Ceobanach, pronounced Ceobanach.
Okay, Ceobanach.
Ceobanach. And meaning smoky mist from the Scots Gaelic, was created to reflect the intensely peated origins of Bunnahabhain Single Malt Scotch Whisky back in the late 19th century. So the 19th century, Malcolm, what years were those?
1800.
Very good. A plus.
History's that's the strong point.
Matured in ex-bourbon casks for over 10 years. You'll find complex layers of flavor in this natural, unchill filtered single malt. An inspired dram evocative of times long past. So what they're suggesting here, Malcolm, we have this, we'll talk color in a minute, very light whiskey, is that this may in fact reflect a classic Islay,
Okay.
a peated whiskey. In many senses, perhaps even a throwback idea to what Scotch whiskey was for generations, which was peated. Now, why is that the case?
Oldest distilleries?
In some ways, peated whiskeys existed because of the fuel needed to dry
Oh, okay.
the barley, right? The malt, right? Because these islands, right? And what was their abundant resource, right? And one of the abundant resources were these peat bogs, right? And so they learned to use what Mother Nature had gifted them.
Dry out the peat bog.
Right.
Dry out the friggin' barley.
And so, but when you cook with peat as a fuel, right, it creates that earthy, smoky leftover.
Which I think is whatever fuel you're trying to use. I think that's a way to look at it. You'll always impart some of the fuel's background.
Qualities.
Yes.
Right, and the qualities connected to peat will be not only the smoke, but the earthy connection to it as well, because peat essentially is sort of twigs and leaves and mud all bound together over the centuries. It's a great preservative too. In fact, they pull bodies out of peat bogs hundreds of years later with earth and leathery skin, where you can still see the wrinkles on the faces of the people and their expressions of like, what? And then they've been disposed of.
I'm getting you a hat. I'm going to get you a Dr. Grant hat.
We've gotten you a few hats. Where's my hat?
Because yeah, never mind. I'm going to get you a Dr. Grant hat.
Okay, very good. Okay, the Ceobanach. No age statement, but what we know is it's at least 10 years old.
Okay.
Interesting that they chose not to label it a 10-year-old.
And that's my where this revolves. Why?
Which tells us that there must be some older whiskey in here that they didn't want us to lose sight of at a labeling only saying 10-year-old on the front, because then we'd just be caught up in the Bunnahabhain 10-year-old Ceobanach. But they don't want us to do that.
So do you think it's the mystique that non-age statement throws towards a bottle that makes it? Or
Well,
do you
they
think
said-
it's just that they don't want you to freaking just focus in on what the age
Like,
is?
they don't want us to focus in on it. And again, what did they say here? Single malt Scotch whiskey back in the late 19th century. In those days, they weren't labeling the age of the whiskey.
No, because it was really...
Right, so they're asking us to step back and say, I think, here's an old-timey whiskey.
All right.
So let's find out. Very light. Not straw.
Compared to its siblings,
Yeah.
this is compared to the siblings that I have tried on this show, or in general in this bar. This is a very light.
This is
This is that Chardonnay. This is that pale
right.
straw.
This is I feel like it's a little darker than that pale straw. I hear you. I'm agreeing with you on the Chardonnay. I feel like we have a light gold.
And boy, does it frickin' sheet fast.
Let's see if we get some legs to develop here.
I don't think you even get a chance to look at it.
Oh,
Yeah. See, mine just comes out like
again,
a
I
rocket.
think we have this nice white light over here that we can't see on the screen, but
Okay.
that pushes through this glass.
Because I've always got like this just drop and it leaves this lingering behind.
So did we have it right? Smoky mist. So we're in agreement. A light gold, a Chardonnay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Pale coloured.
very light. in many ways what you imagine when you are having an Islay,
Yes.
right? It has that
It has all the qualities.
that earthy,
Peat,
peaty,
smoke,
smoky,
sea.
briny, seaside, island. This is what people historically thought of when they thought of a Scotch whiskey. They thought of a smoky drink.
But then it mellows out fairly quickly.
But it's still present.
It is still present.
Right.
But I don't feel, so let's just, I'm just going to throw this in very descriptives, right? That first smell, like, sort of overwhelms you, and it sort of turned me inside out, because I'm like, holy, this is really overpowering. But as it started to diffuse, now I have this pleasant reminder of what the sea with a fire, sitting to watch the drink and waves just lap on. Now I have that feeling going on.
Right, and again, those first nosings we do are intended to be more punchy with the use of the glass top. This is, again, to kick the horse one more time, very reminiscent of just sort of a classic Scotch whiskey in that, I don't know much about it, but this is what I would think it smelled like.
Did you say, what was the cask, what they put this in? Did you say sherry or bourbon?
I think it's just, well, look at the color.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
Right, yeah, so it really can't be a sherry.
But did you say there was a...
Ex-bourbon cask for
Ex-bourbon,
over 10
okay.
years. Complex layers of flavor.
Because there is a little sweetness in it.
So the other thing I would say about this is that peat loses its intensity in terms of on the palate over time. So putting some 10-year-old whiskey in here may deliver some peaty flavor, whereas if imagine there's a 15 or 18 in here as well, where that intensity would have mellowed out so much. So I think we're looking for a balance of a very smooth, smoky, peaty whiskey. Should we find out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cheers.
The Bunnahabhain Ceobanach. No age statement, but at least 10 years old. Limited batch edition. That's a classic Islay.
Yeah.
It really
Ooh.
is.
What is that thing on the back?
There is something bourbony sweet in the back. Is that what you're getting? Because it was classic Islay all day, and then there was this little kick of something else going on.
There's something...
And I felt it was sweet.
No, I've got something completely different.
Classic Islay. This is an Islay. So much different than the Bunnahabhain 12s that we've tried. So different than the Studia Dare.
Right before that sweetness, there's an expression. And maybe this is my true first peated drink. And maybe that's what, as in the flavor I'm picking up. We've had drinks here that I can't really say are true. I haven't tasted the peat. I've tasted the smoke, I've tasted the brine. But there is a taste in here that I'm not familiar with that has this earthy sod type of...
Maybe when they used the peat to do the barley, they may have, as they think it's the rudder or the rascal, one of the tools they use may have actually cut into a peat body from centuries ago, and so you may be tasting some smoked leathery skin.
I wish we had that idea.
I believe that you're picking up some clear evidence of a bourbon cask, because this is an Islay through and through.
It is. The bourbon's there, but there is something before that bourbon finish. And I can't... Yeah, there's something before that bourbon finish.
All right, is there, again, I'm going to go to this bourbon finish, something sweet. Is there something candied there? Is there something... There's something sweet happening right at the end that I'm absolutely
This is
connecting to the
before
bourbon.
that sweet.
Yeah.
It's right before that
I'm
sweet.
not picking that up, but that's okay.
No, that's completely
Yeah.
fine. But there is something that strikes me. It's almost like an after effect of the drink going down my throat. As I've exhale as I am like taking the last bits in. There is something there. It's not sulfur. It's not, but it feels like something different.
Yeah, certainly not sulfur. I agree there. Well, let's just see what if the Bunnahabhain
And I can't put my finger on what it is.
Ceobanach is in here. All right, so the 18 is here. It is here. Let's see what the boys from this book say. Pronounced Ceobanach. Translates smoky mist. Heavily peated. Ex-bourbon. All right, so you're on the palate. Mushrooms, pine resin, lilacs, maple syrup, seaweed, mint and potpourri,
Potpourri.
savory tomato sauce, potting soil, lavender perfume, loamy earth, dried roses.
Okay, so not that I'm a big dirt eater,
Cousin dirt?
but maybe that's what that is. It's that earthy, loamy back taste that I'm
I
getting.
mean, it is so an Islay, earthy and smoky and peaty, 85% of the way through, and then it's this transition to the sweetness.
And this is, like I said, this is, and you will roll your eyes, and I'm sure there are people in this freaking audience who will roll
I'll
their eyes.
practice.
But out of all the Islanders we've done, I will say this is now what I think an Islay should be.
No, this is an Islay. I have zero doubt. This is reminiscent of Lafroig profiles on a mild, moderate end. This is reminiscent of Colin. This is an Islay, though it's not a Lafroig and it's not a Colin. It reminds me most of a Lafroig.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not a comparison. It's just an Islay. This is, and I love the sweet transition at the end.
It almost, it's a nice little cherry on the top. As you get through this sea, smoke, peaty, loamy, lavender, whatever, and then all of a sudden you get this nice sweet aftertaste that just freaking just eases it down your throat.
Maybe it's that dried rose.
It could be.
Yeah.
But it's something that I'm getting that I have not tasted in the multiple drinks that we've had here.
Tell me what I'm gonna have.
And I will tell you this, and I will go, and we're going to talk to management. If you had smoked salmon here, I would have been all over it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a smoked oyster.
You will.
I'm totally gonna have a smoked oyster. What are you gonna have?
I'm not going to have anything. Oh, actually, you know what? Just because I can have it, I'm going to do the fudge.
The whiskey, the Gunfarclas sherry infused whiskey fudge, and I am gonna get in some of this smoked oyster.
Because I will tell you, a smoked fish with this, outstanding.
My gosh! We recently had an experience where a whiskey brought us to the fish grill, and it has happened again. It is stunning. Oh my gosh, Malcolm. How is that fudge?
You know what, the fudge, what I liked about it, it didn't fight against the drink.
Yeah.
I don't think it deserves to be with the drink in the sense that would I go for the fudge.
Right.
But I enjoyed the sweetness of the fudge, that almost sickly sweet compared to what the drink is. That sweetness paired with the salt, as it can't come through as a team, to end, brought more of that bourbon finish out.
Right. So I think I agree with what you're saying, which is because the whiskey itself is not a sweet whiskey in really any measure other than perhaps these ending 15%. Pairing it with something that's sweet 100% of the way may not be necessarily the recommendation, but it's not a failure. The smoked oyster was just a great pair. If I had to do something besides the smoked oyster, I would either do the blue cheese or the Havarti, both of which really are not have any sweet qualities. Again, I would steer away from sweet with this whiskey.
Almost if you did a smoked cheddar or smoked cheese.
Absolutely. I could absolutely see a smoked Gouda working really well with this.
No.
Okay. The Bunnahabhain Ceobanach. No age statement, at least 10 years old, ex-bourbon barrels.
Say it one more time.
Ceobanach. The Smoky Mist. A classic island. Yep. Well, let's see what the crew has for us as we wrap up this episode of Try Before We Die. In some ways.
True to this drink.
Yep.
Between the teeth and over the tongue. Look out, stomach. Here it comes. Cheers.
But unlike that toast, there's no fear in taking this down.
No.
Right? It's not I gotta get this through, right? This again, I've said it a few times, classic Islay. This whiskey is just good.
Paired with the right accoutrement. I could see you sitting down, having a couple drinks of this before you head out to do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that you should get smoked salmon.
Agreed.